folks. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. The first thing that I have to tell you, Babe, ¿qué voy a decir? Feliz Año Nuevo. Happy New Year, my dear folks. We are going to have a wonderful 2020 because 2020, we are on the path. We are on the path to change this country transformationally. Don't buy into the crap. We are changing and we're going to be happy about it and we're going to go out there and work it. That is what we're going to do. That is what we are going to tell our folks. That is what we are going to let everybody be cognizant of. This is going to be a great year. It is a year of the comeback. It is the year that we say we are not going to use in their terminology, but in the correct terminology, we are going to take this country back. No doubts, we will take this country back. For all those people who are scared, for all those people who are concerned, for all those people who are not really sure, take my word on it. America means business. And you know what, folks? People are scared, but if we give them that empowerment to let them know there are more good people than bad people, there are more people that can be convinced of doing the right thing that have never done it before, that have never voted, we can get there. And one of the issues that we are going to talk about is something that affects millions of Americans, and it's going to continue to affect them. It has just hit home. A major incident happened in my family that I'm going to use as a catalyst to tell you why I do know, why I am sure this is not only happening to me, but this is happening to many other people around the country. But beforehand, let's have a little bit of fun. This is the new year, and I came out with a little something that went like this. So I'm going to play this, and then you guys tell me what you think. Okay, let's go for it. It's the new year. Happy New Year. You know me, I am a nonconformist. So this is going to be La Mirada Número Uno, the look number one. And the other one, this is look number two, the nonconformist conforming. Which one wins the day? You guys decide which you're going to see most of. Of course, the nonconformist will rear its head every so often. Okay, guys, for those of you who are watching right now, you guys can go ahead and tell me which one you prefer in the chat room. You can always go to the chat room and tell, or not the chat. Well, if you're on YouTube, you can just throw it in the chat. Wherever you are, tell me which one should we conform or be the conformist. So far, it is for the non-conformist, both in the poll that I'm doing on our Facebook page at politicsdoneright.com, or rather, I'm sorry, at facebook.com/politicsdoneright, or at our YouTube channel, YouTube/Egberto Willies. The vote's going so far. The vote is for being nonconformist. In other words, like this. However, the people who want me to put that suit on, that's right there, or that coat, not a suit, that coat on, we can still go ahead and do that if you want to win. But I tell you what, every now and then, since I did have some people that wanted me conforming, every so often, I will conform, okay? So anyhow, let me go ahead and before we get into the program is about granny, boomers, all of that kind of stuff. But I want to kind of set the stage before we completely get into the program. Eric Glaude, one of the professors at I think it is Princeton University, made a comment with regards to Biden talking about, well, maybe if there was a worthy Republican, I would put them on the ticket or something like that. That's not, yes, we use that as a catalyst, as what we use to talk about Biden, but that's not really the issue. Eddie Glaude speaks about it much better than I ever could. So let's go ahead and have Eddie Glaude's point of view on this issue, and then we'll move on from there. The media can actually impact narrative. If you take a listen to how this particular MSNBC host refers to the far left because of their objection to what Joe Biden did, you'll see exactly what we're talking about. Listen to how Professor Eddie Glaude handles it. I think the pushback that Eddie Glaude gave is important. Did it in a civil manner, but it was in fact the necessary pushback.
If you are the nominee, as she suggested over there, you're going to have to pull out all the stops. Our 21-year-old son tonight, I wonder if Joe Biden would consider choosing a Republican as a running mate.
I would, but I can't think of one now.
As you well know, there was a lot of hand-wringing and pearl clutching among folks on the far left to that comment. But that struck me as Joe Biden trying to make the case that he's not extremely partisan, he's not unreasonably ideological. He's trying to make a general election argument to potential Republican voters who might be inclined to voting for him, folks who are fed up with Donald Trump. What's your take on it?
Well, I think that's right, Jeff, but I think it also reveals that that the logic behind Joe Biden's campaign is predicated upon a certain understanding of American politics. You have to ask, who's the ideal voter that's in the mind of Joe Biden and his campaign? Who is he talking to? It seems to me that we've always found, at least in my political life, we find ourselves speaking to a particular kind of voter, typically a white, working class, male voter. Oftentimes it's that voter who sits between the so-called extremes of the right and the left. And part of what we've seen over the last 2 years, 3 years now, is that our politics have fundamentally changed, that assumption might not hold. So it may seem reasonable to Joe Biden that he should signal that this is the kind of guy he is, but we just went through that election. We just went through the election with Hillary Clinton, where she tried to appeal to those centrist voters, those Republicans who were not supposedly supportive of Donald Trump, and we saw what happened. He needs to, instead of trying to signal that, he needs to lay out a plan, I think, to excite those folks who didn't turn out to the polls. The question is a turnout election. The question isn't about convincing those who somehow stand in between Donald Trump and the Democrats to come over to the Democratic side. So it bothered me because it reveals an old form of politics to my mind.
Eddie Glaude got it right. The one portion that I would add to that commentary is that I do believe when we make our case, there are some people to bring to our side. It is a turnout election, but also it is an election where people that are hurting are those that are also gettable in some instances. So it's turnout plus working hard to bring those all in. Joe Biden just isn't the person to do that. The media can actually impact narrative. If you take a listen to how this particular MSNBC... Okay, I kind of ran that one over a little bit. Okay, the last, this other video that I want to show you is also very important because finally Bernie Sanders came out with a record hit today. Hey, welcome aboard, Raynard Blake. Welcome aboard. He came out with a record amount of money that he raised. And you know what happened? MSNBC covered it. But not only did MSNBC cover it, they covered the Bernie Sanders big haul with the particular poll numbers that were important. Check this out in the way they did it. I think it is important, and then we're going to get into the core of the program that we're talking about today. Here you go. Happy New Year, folks. The young MSNBC reporter, Jacob Sabroff, he came out today with a report on Bernie Sanders that could only be expressed as ecstatic. He came out there and he started to rave about how great Bernie Sanders was actually doing in the Democratic race. But more importantly, what he pointed out all the time continuously is the polls say that Bernie Sanders is the second choice of all Biden's people. The polls say that most progressives under 35 want Bernie Sanders by a huge amount. And he kept on saying, the polls say, he's on MSNBC, so he needs to go out there and make sure that it's not emotions that is driving the statements of facts, that he's backing up what he is saying. I want you to listen to how he came across. I was sitting down there and saying, wow, they're going to boot him off of MSNBC pretty soon. Check this out.
What you are seeing here, I think, is to understand what Bernie Sanders has built up. His campaign announced 1.2 million donations have come from Americans. That's about 1 out of every 300 Americans have donated to his campaign. And when you're looking at who is backing him, look at the numbers from NBC Wall Street Journal poll. Voters under 35 years old, Bernie Sanders has about twice the support that Elizabeth Warren does right now. But then when you look at voters that consider themselves liberal, you see Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren vying, essentially it's like 28% to 27%, vying for that support. Polling has shown consistently that Sanders has the most enthusiastic support among the Democratic electorate. Folks that say they back Bernie Sanders, they say that they back him with the most enthusiasm. Also, which candidate, we should note, has the highest approval rating out of any of the Democrats, among Democratic primary voters? That'd be Bernie Sanders. He has built up a coalition, not of only strong liberal support, folks that are calling for Medicare for all, calling for the Green New Deal. At the same time, again, we'll turn to polling because, as we've been able to tell from the last year, we can only guess to a certain extent where this race goes. When you're looking at Joe Biden supporters, when you ask Joe Biden supporters who their second choice is, who is it? It's Bernie Sanders. This is suddenly a campaign that has seen itself being able to build upon what it already had.
We must recall as well that Bernie Sanders came out as the leading candidate to beat Donald Trump in several, well, I don't know if it's several polls, but in a recent poll, it turned out that he was a better match against Donald Trump than Joe Biden. I actually believe that when you go into the nitty-gritty of a real election, that is going to play itself out. I think both Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren would make a much better candidate against Donald Trump. Don't be fooled by what the establishment is trying to put out there. All right. Okay, I wanted to present those few videos before I got deeply into the show. So now it's time, however, for us to talk about what is this show about today. Title of the show, Boomer Granny could be the door to Medicare for all if messaged correctly. Again, Boomer Granny could be the door to Medicare for all if messaged correctly. Welcome aboard, Rose Williams. How are you doing today? And for all of those, by the way, folks, the messages that I see, I have all the messages from Facebook on our main page, as well as our YouTube, Twitter, and what is it called? Periscope, etc. in one place. However, if you want me to see your message directly, you need to come directly to our Politics Done Right. What is it? Facebook.com/Politics Done Right. Facebook.com/Politics Done Right. I won't see all the parties that are the different parties that are going along. So if you want to write a comment that I can see, please go to Facebook.com/Politics Done Right. And Rose, it's great that you are a Boomer Granny. So again, this is not for you because you're already on our bandwagon. This is for the other audience that's out there at large. So folks, let's get busy with it. Title of the show, Boomer Granny could be the door to Medicare for all if messaged correctly. Subtitle is, opponents of Medicare for all are usually older and somewhat lacking the empathy for perceived self-interest. Boomer Granny healthcare reality just may change that. Subtitle. Now, here's what the program is. As people start to understand the pilfering nature of our healthcare system, especially as one ages, only obscene coercion will stop Medicare for all. A personal experience with my mother-in-law is something that is about to hit baby boomers in droves. If they continue their willful ignorance of losing the little they have been able to accumulate with an overbearing, extracting, and exploitative plutocracy, they will pay with their poverty and the poverty of those left behind. This is no time for ideological fights on Medicare for all. So at all, it is not time for that. Folks, if you're just joining us, please remember to share these programs. It is essential that we share these programs to ensure that we, the independent media, can get that penetration necessary to supersede all the bad and misinformation coming from the mainstream media. We have to get there. Right now, the reason why we're having issues with getting progressive policies passed is because the mainstream media continues to do what they do best, and that is lie to the American population, lie to them dearly, and misinform them, let them believe that things aren't the way they really are. So anyhow, let me go ahead and find that what we're talking about today, because it is now very important. So the title of the show is similar to the title that I gave to the program, if I can somehow find the program. So as I look for the baby boomer program, which is what the thing is about today, let me tell you, Christmas was a very mixed bag for the Willis family. We have a whole lot of the family come over to the home every Christmas, and we have a very good time, a lot of food, a lot of camaraderie, you name it, we've got it. Unfortunately, this Christmas, we had a catastrophic event, and that event is something that will live on with us for a very, very long time. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead, and this article is not yet published widely because, again, it's on reserve for the Daily Coast on the front page on Sunday. But it seems like before I get started, I've got a call. So let me go ahead and take the call. I don't want to keep somebody waiting that long. So, caller, I'm going to be coming to you right now, and then we'll go to the blog of the week. All right, come on in, caller.
Hello?
Yes, you're on.
Am I the Yeah, hi. This is Rose, and one question I had is, can we do more to explain what Medicare for All is? I had a conversation with my brother, and he was totally against Medicare for All because he believed that it was just the same as regular Medicare extended to everyone. And he said, well, I mean, it's not that great. And of course, it's really quite an expansion. And I feel that even though, people like Bernie are getting his message out, perhaps they're not getting out enough of the details about his Medicare for All plan so that people will support it.
Rose.
He was totally lukewarm about it until I explained to him what that really means.
Rose, thank you so kindly, and you have to be helpful with me and everybody else. It's interesting because just yesterday, my daughter stood right here with me, and she said, you know what, Dad? You guys have a labeling problem. My daughter is 28 years old. She's a med student, a third-year med student. And she said, Dad, we have a labeling program. And in fact, she was on the KPFT show on Tuesday when she brought that up on air on 90.1 FM KPFT as well. And she said, Dad, you guys have a labeling problem. And Rose, your brother proves. We know it, right, Rose? But your brother does not. So we cannot hold, and that is the reason I hold nobody accountable. Republicans are my friends, all these folks. What I understand is that they're trying to confuse things, and that's what we have to eliminate, Rose.
Exactly. And then the confusion apparently is working. I think we need to work harder at either relabeling or, giving more details so people understand.
You're right, and I promise to do better. I promise to do better and try. And you know what my daughter said? My daughter said it's either you change the name or the first way you start is Medicare for All isn't the Medicare of today. It is orders of magnitude better.
Yes. Exactly.
So I will start. When I go into the blog of the week, I'll start it that way. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so kindly for your call, Rose.
Yes. Have a happy New Year.
You too, Rose.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Okay, folks, let's go ahead and get started. Folks, do you know what time it is? It's time for the weekly blog post. Okay, folks, here is the weekly blog post. It's titled, Granny's Ordeal. Granny's Ordeal. An evil healthcare system cloaked in the trappings of beauty. An evil healthcare system cloaked in the trappings of beauty. Have you been to a hospital complex lately? In Houston, where I'm at, they are constantly building them or upgrading them. They're beautiful. I go over to where my mother-in-law is right now. It's beautiful. I go to the medical center here in Houston. It's beautiful. I go to satellite centers throughout the Houston area to visit folks who have been placed in the hospital. It's beautiful. Some of them look better than most hotels. It's beautiful. But the health care they provide sucks your wealth and our tax dollars. It is an evil enterprise, and here is why. I owned a software company, a software developed company. I have always carried my own private insurance with very high deductibles, co-pays, and premiums. I could afford it then, but understood why a large portion of Americans not getting employer health care had to go without. Shameful. Many had to go without. If I added all the premiums I've paid over the years, I have paid out many times more than I received in services. Theoretically, that is okay. In pure insurance parlance, they bet you will not get sick enough to be a risk to them. And you bet the converse. You bet I'm going to get sick, so I want to make sure to have insurance so that they pay. That's your bet. Their bet is, no, you're not going to get sick. That is how a true insurance system works, right? And if you lose, you win because you are marginally healthy at least. So, I don't mind having had paid that. Well, I do mind because I was bilked. I do mind because I pay too much. But I don't mind not having to get back the money I put in because that is what insurance is. All of us put money together, and those who are unlucky to get sick, their health care is paid for. Look, I'd rather stay healthy, pay that money, and not ever have to see a doctor, not ever have to see a hospital. I much prefer that. But for those who are unlucky to get sick, in a true good insurance system, they don't worry, they don't get bankrupt or anything. But that's not what we have, people. Our economic system attempts to make everything a product. The thing is, most products are real choices. Basic health care isn't. You break a leg, you cannot easily shop around. You get cancer in a humane system, you would not forego care because you cannot afford it. In fact, that statement alone is immoral. It degrades into an ability to pay, else suffering or death. In other words, you can't pay, suffer or die. You can't pay, suffer or die. You can't pay. There's another element to that. Go fund me, suffer or die. Beg, suffer or die. An economic system in a civilized society should be based on everyone having basic health care as part of said system. Roads are not an afterthought. We don't say, well, we may have some roads here, not some roads. We have roads. It's necessary for commerce. It's necessary to move around. They are necessary for a functioning society. We have a tendency to have an economic system that reveres capital and penalizes humanity. Reveres capital. Oh, if it has, the first thing anybody ever asks you about a tax bill or about some policy, some social policy is, how is it going to affect business? We never first hear, how is it going to affect human beings? How is it going to make everybody else's lives better? How is it going to make us a better society? You don't hear that. We first think capital. That's inhumane. That's immoral. But they don't want to cloak it that way. They want to cloak it as you want free stuff. No, we want an equitable society where all have equal access to success. That's all we want. That is all we want. We don't want free stuff. We don't want all these things. We want a society that functions and give everybody equal access to success. They are necessary for functioning society. We have a tendency to have an economic system that reveres capital and penalizes humanity. This touches everyone if they live a full life in the long run. It was about 1:30 p.m. on Christmas Day. All of our family started arriving for our 2 p.m. meal. Linda, my wife, set the time. Everyone knows whether you are present or not, dinner is served. Dinner service will begin. This Christmas would be different. And it is life-changing for Linda. It's life-changing for me. It is life-changing for the family. It is life-changing for quite a few people. While taking a shower, Linda ran into the bathroom. My mother is not talking and her mouth is twisted to one side, she said. I'm calling 911. Granny was sitting on the couch catatonic. By the time I got to the room, my daughter, who was home for her break, she's a third-year med student, was already doing pupil dilation tests and some other stuff. She looked at me with grave concern. Yes, Dad, she said. It is a stroke, a bad one. Linda was helping Granny up the stairs the night before, and her right knee gave out. She said she felt dizzy. We took her to the emergency room. They did some tests, gave her Tylenol, and sent her back home, even though she could hardly walk. On the morning of the day of the stroke, she felt somewhat better, but my daughter said the stroke was likely in progress from the night before and likely may have been caught before it got as bad. Before it got as bad. My mother-in-law's Medicare is handled by WellCare, a private company. Okay, private company. It is clear the intent of the hospital was to do as little as possible. Does profit maximization at the expense of the patient come to mind? The most sickening portion, folks, and this hurts to the core. This hurts to the core. The most sickening portion of the incident occurred when the paramedic got to the house. The first thing they did before even touching her was to ask about insurance. The first thing they asked was about insurance. We told them she was on Medicare. They wanted to see the card. My wife was a bit frazzled and could not find the card in Granny's purse. They acted like they would not load her into the ambulance given the manner in which he said he needed the card. When Linda gave them the card, they loaded her up and they were off to the hospital. Granny had a procedure that went through her groin into her brain to extract the blood clot. He showed us before and after blood flow pictures. Granny is currently responsive, smiles and seems to understand, but cannot speak, cannot swallow, or cannot stand. The hospital says that it is all they can do and that the family must get her out of there and into a facility. Hurry up. Get her to hell out of here. That is our healthcare system. You're on your own, baby. At the most vulnerable time, at a time when I see even my wife in her full state, my wife has lupus, sometimes get catatonic sitting down thinking, what are we going to do? My mother doesn't have any money. My mother doesn't have this. What are we going to do? Granny is on Social Security, very small check as she had low-paying jobs, Medicare via WellCare, and no kind of senior care insurance. Most people that you know, 80 to 90% of Americans, I guarantee you, don't have insurance that covers extended care. You hope, you pray to God that you are not going to be that one who vegetates and have to be cared for whatever lifespan you have thereafter. You know, I tell you what, I'm going to digress from my narrative here. Personally, this is nothing on my wife or anybody else. But I wrote a DNR. But my DNR was not or is not a simple DNR. My stuff is, if it looks like I am going to live a pathetic life, take everything off. I don't want tubes. I don't want any of that. I am not going to give the hospital in my last few months of life or few weeks of life or few days of life all that we've worked for, all that I've worked for. I'm already spending much of what I've worked for to be a progressive activist, but that's a worthwhile investment. But to transfer everything, the only thing we've got left now is a home that's paid. To say that that will go to the healthcare companies that are pilfering America, it's nothing but a transfer of wealth from the middle class to the rich. I want people to understand that. And my wife was going around to different places. Where is she going to be? And you know what? They tell her, oh, does she have a home? You can just go ahead and put a reverse mortgage on it. And I mean, it just came out natural to them that for the last care of her life, it is just like well, I tell you what, let me go read the blog of the week. Then we'll go back into some of this, okay? Granny's on Social Security, very small check. She's on Medicare via WellCare, a private company, so you know they don't give a damn. She could not afford it. It is then one realizes how evil, immoral, and flawed our system is for those who least can afford health care. And folks, this is going to happen to a large percentage of baby boomers because we can keep them alive where they would have been dead before. We can keep them alive at a costly range. And saying, if you can keep the person alive or just let nature takes over, the way life is right now, there's something about some people that they think life, no matter what, is worth living. For me, no. For me, if I can't take care of myself, life ain't worth living. But I cannot expect everyone to have that narrative, nor should I attempt to put that onto anybody else. That's just me. I will not exist in a vegetative state. I will not exist unless I can be a full functioning human being. Now that said, Medicare will provide live-in services for a few months but the first 20 days, you can have it. They'll take care of it. But thereafter, for 100 days, you pay $170 a day. $170 a day. So you have a home. You have a home. The first thing they said, go take out a reverse mortgage on that so that you can transfer your monies to the healthcare companies. Folks, this is going to happen to you. We had no clue something like this could happen. Come on, it's never happened. But as people get older, these are the things that happen. For all practical purposes after that, you are on your own on the order of several $1,000s a month. It is a process that means you must give any accumulated wealth you have acquired over your lifetime to these profit centers masquerading as health care delivery services. I must repeat. Medicare will provide live-in services for a few months and rehabilitation for a few weeks. For all practical purposes, after that, you are on your own on the order of several $1,000s a month. If it is a process that means you must give any accumulated wealth you have acquired over your lifetime to these profit centers, masquerading as health care delivery services. Then and only then does one qualify for Medicaid after destitution, after the corporatocracy has taken everything that you're worth, after they act as those clean up parasites designed to take all the accumulated wealth, and then you die with nothing to pass along. That's our system. That is a system that Joe Biden is supporting. That is a system that they are telling all, that they're convincing baby boomers, that they're convincing older people that, hey, you know, you want to have choice. You don't want that taken away from you because it'll hurt you. No, it'll hurt the companies that steal your wealth. It'll hurt the company that rips you off. It would hurt the companies who are nothing but thieves, thugs with a suit. Learn, people, learn, please. Share, people, share, please. Americans need to understand this because they don't. Because most people at any given time are not going through this. And by the time those who've gone through it are done, they're poor and they no longer have the wherewithal to be activists and say, this is wrong. It's already happened to me. Share, people, share. Support, people, support. We must come together and get against the corporatocracy, the plutocracy that's pilfering you. Earlier, Ali Velshi just had a story that says the most wealthy 500 people in the world, they own $5 trillion. Their income went up by 25% last year alone. Think about this, people. Think what the system is all about. Think about what can happen to you. You know, it's not about me. I'm trying to figure out how are we going to work this out because, you know, I can think things up and try to figure things out, etc. I have a radio show. I'm trying to inform people about this. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're Democrat. This stuff kills you. This stuff makes you poor. Continuing, Medicare will, as I said, Medicare provide those. Then only after you're destitute does Medicaid come in. So Lee Grant, I'm going to talk about that after I'm done with the thing, but I get your point. Now, this system only survives because at any given time, enough voters are not experiencing this pilfering. Every politician who has a high school education must understand this. Yet, they have allowed their wealthy benefactors to lead the debate on an inhumane system that prevents this economic and emotional carnage. My experience owning a business, the ordeal we are going through with Granny, the thousands that die every year from the inability to access health care, whether one has insurance or not, demands Medicare for all. The biggest lie is that we cannot afford it. The biggest lie is that we don't have the money. The biggest lie is that we can afford it, but right now what we have is a system that steals the money and give it to a few who are those trillionaires? Who are those billionaires that have those 500 guys that own $5.9 trillion and have gained 25% in that time? That's your money. That is what they are doing psychological warfare on you to make you believe that something that is good for you is not. People, understand this. We need you to understand what is happening in America. Every other country has figured it out. Every other country in the world, from Panama, my third world country of birth, the one that everybody calls a banana republic. Even my banana republic has Medicare for all. Seguro social is what we call it. Tú vas al seguro social para conseguir lo que necesitas. Está bien. Eso es lo que pasa. La gente que son latinos ahora, es imperativo que me están escuchando. Es imperativo que comienzan a votar. Es imperativo que están en la sociedad total para reparar lo que está pasando por aquí. Porque lo que está pasando aquí es del diablo. Es lo que hace el diablo a la gente. I am telling you, folks, what's occurring in America is not only evil, it's of the devil, if there is one. And for those who believe there is security in private insurance or employer-based insurance, remember that Cigna Other health insurance companies put the health care of over 200,000 Houstonians at risk negotiating a contract. They walked away when Herman Hospital said, I'm not going to make that deal with you. You remember when they gave Obama a hard time and said, you can't keep your doctor? Well, guess what? Guess what? When Cigna walked away from Herman, it is telling all those people who have doctors at Herman, you got to look for another doctor. People, we fall for the con. We have to stop falling for the con. The corporatocracy is evil. There are few good corporations out there, but the maintenance of the shareholders at maximum value is evil. People die. Your family, your friends are hurting. This is not ideological. This is human. As my wife and her brothers and sisters struggle to decide how they will move forward with an expense they did not expect, I see the pain and worry. We must all activate our empathy gene. Our system's promotion of a false individualism is in contempt with our empathetic self. This is by design, for if we envision our system based on looking through the eyes of our fellow brothers and sisters, we would pass policies that mitigate likely the evilest healthcare system in the world. We may have the best technology that fewer and fewer people will have the ability to access. In 2020, let's vote in politicians that are willing to make the transformational changes we need for most of us. And let's make sure those who have adopted policies and talking points that harm are summarily dismissed. Joe Biden, be dismissed. Amy Klobuchar, be dismissed. Folks, that is the blog of the week. People, this is not ideological. People, this is real. Telephone number 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Let's make 2020 a year of movement forward. Let's make 2020 that year that we don't allow the plutocracy to screw us. Let's make 2020 the year that we say, absolutely not, niet. Let's make 2020 the year we forget about willful ignorance. Because, folks, whether you're Democrat or Republican, this is something that affects you. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, this matters. Lee Grant earlier said, I sincerely hope your mother-in-law has a complete recovery. She won't. She won't. I will look into that. Thank you so kindly, Rose Williams. And thank you so kindly for all your thoughts that came across on the thing. Raynard Blake, Lee Grant, thank you so kindly. Let's see who else is here. Lee Grant, Raynard Blake, let's see, Rose Williams. Thank you so kindly for those words. Lee, she will be able to get Medicaid. We believe, we haven't applied yet, but after she's exhausted whatever asset she has, and that is the things that we have to tally home or whatever is in the bank account, that sort of a thing. Again, the way it works is you have to be destitute. The plutocracy, the corporatocracy would have had to taken away all of your wealth, all of your assets, everything. Then, yes, you qualify for Medicaid. It's an evil system, people. It's a system of evil that is, I mean, when you think about it, what can you say? What can you say? Okay, let me kind of go through these notes here. Happy New Year to you too, Rose. We spoke on the phone earlier. So many of us are tired of being labeled as the far left. We are not the far left. We are where things are. They need to label us as the fringe. If they don't label us as the fringe, then you know what happens, right? If we're not the fringe, somehow people start listening to what we have to say. By labeling us the fringe or the far left, once we start talking, people block us out because, after all, we're the fringe or the far left. When you have to get around that, you have to sit down and listen to people and then beg. Please hear me out. I had a conversation with somebody at KPFT who called in, and by the time we were over with the conversation, he was like, he understood that yes, we were on the same team. We are on the same team, and he got that rather quickly. And he, so we have to first just not take it as an insult when they call us far left or on the fringe or whatever. Understand that that is what the plutocracy is doing. They are programming other people to believe that we in fact are crazy, that we in fact are on the far left, that we in fact don't represent what most Americans want, which in effect we are where Americans are. If I can tell you the policies that we need to take care of my grandmother, or rather my mother-in-law, had we had Medicare for all, I mean, we wouldn't have had the hospital kicking her out. You got to get out of here. You have to hurry and find a place. Get out of here. It would have been a seamless system. My wife wouldn't be running around Houston right now going from nursing home to nursing home to nursing home, because we could just go ahead and say, okay, we'll take a look at this and things would be taken care of. But they give us this false choice. False freedom. It's not really freedom. Oh, don't tread on me. That's what they like to say. Don't tread on me. And then they give you false freedom. People like their insurance. Like what insurance? An insurance is an enslavement mechanism. It tells you which doctor you can see, which hospitals you can use, and what medicines you can take. You don't have a damn choice. If you work for an employer, that employer decides what options you're going to have for health insurance. It's a false claim. Medicare for All says we are the payer. We're going to pay the bill. So let me explain Medicare for All, folks. Medicare for All ain't Medicare of today. Medicare for All is much better than Medicare of today. No co-pays. No money exchange at all. You have your Medicare card, your Medicare for All card, and you walk up to get health care and you present your card, and that's it. No looking for insurance companies. Doctors' offices don't have to hire a whole staff to contact different insurance companies to figure out what medicines are allowed, to figure out what doctors can you see, to figure out what procedures can be taken or need to be taken. We would have codified procedures for particular health codes. And of course, there will always be ways to have exceptions to the rules where they are necessary. But what the plutocracy would like you to believe is somehow Medicare for All is going to be overbearing, and what they say is going to happen and nothing else can happen. It's a lie. That is how it is today. It's amazing that they're projecting, right? They are projecting because that is what happens today. Today, you are the slave of the healthcare company, of the insurance company, because they tell you what to do. Right. I mean, Rose says it best. Insurance is like paying protection money to the mob. I love that, Rose. I may actually steal that and put it in a blog. And of course, I would definitely mention it was from one of our premier listeners, Rose Williams, who came up with insurance is like paying protection money to the mob. To the mob. To the mob. Folks, hey, we are in a 2-week period where we're trying to get membership, our subscription levels, either for people to increase their subscription levels or for people who aren't subscribing to subscribe. And all those people who do that, guess what we do for them? We are giving you a blog post with a link to wherever you want to go on the Politics Done Right page. So I did a little video, and I want to go ahead and play that video for you, and then we'll move on from there. But thank you so kindly for being here. And remember, share, share, share. Have we got an offer for you? But before, stick with me for a second. Why is independent media important? Why is independent media necessary? Let me tell you a quick story. I went out with a few couples today, and one of them brought 2 of their kids. The father was German. The kid went to Germany over the summer to brush up on their German and also to get what's called some sort of a certificate to allow them to go to college after they graduate. Well, guess what? That American kid that has dual citizenship can go back to Germany and they get a free college education. In Germany, they also have a true universal health care, pretty darn close to Medicare for all. No bankruptcies or anything that you see that we have here. By the way, if you're an international student, you can go to Germany and get educated for free. Nobody asks you for your papers. Nobody asks if you're an undocumented worker. The things that we consider the fringe here, elsewhere, people are happier in providing these services. But you'd never know that. Over here, we tell people through our own media that if you want those things, you are on the fringe. If you want those things, you just can't have it. We can't afford it. Well, lesser countries like Brazil and Argentina and Germany, all these countries, successful countries, allow these things. Why is it not possible in America? Because we don't have a strong independent media. We're developing that now. We understand that you cannot get the thing that we want unless people are informed. People are scared now. They cannot believe that these things can be had because they don't know. Our corporate-driven media makes sure that we don't know. Now, bringing it back home, one of the reasons that we are doing this, an independent media network, Politics Done Right, is to help be a part of changing that paradigm. We need you to be a part of that. And so we try all kinds of things to get people involved in supporting an independent media that is going to make a difference. Starting a new year, let's have an offer. Let's give our readership, let's give our listenership, let's give our viewership an offer. All those who become subscribers in the next few days, they will appear on our front page as long as they're subscribers on a rotating basis. And if you take a look at the screen to the left, that is what our front page looks like. We are creating the independent media warrior. What that means is you are the ones that are going to propel independent media. Let me give you a little close up. That column will be populated with our independent media warriors. Whatever image you want, and you can provide us with a whole text. And when they click on your image, as an example for one particular person, he gets something that he wants to present to the rest of the world. He gets to put that out on our network, available every day, because all our independent media warriors are rotated throughout our main page every day, throughout the day, as long as they're subscribers. Whatever you write in that particular message, whether it's a link back to a blog of yours, a link back to your Facebook page, a link back to your Instagram, or wherever you get a chance, first of all, to promote independent media, but also to get something out of it, promote something right back to whatever you want to say or wherever you want your page on Politics Done Right go. So please, at the end of this video, please go ahead, click and join, subscribe to Politics Done Right. Tell you what, that will be some of the best few cups of coffee spend a month to support something that is right. So yes, I did that over the weekend. I came up with this new thing where people who subscribe at that level become what I call independent media warriors. And in giving you something, what I wanted to do is say, okay, for those people who went ahead and upgrade their membership or also went ahead and subscribe, what do they get? Well, you get a full blog post on the Politics Done Right page, and you can say whatever you want in that blog post as long as it's decent. And you can also go ahead and link to something of interest. In the case of there's a voter education project from Carl Smith who decided that that's what he was going to use his for. He has a high-level membership, and that's what he does. But we need members, and 2020, we're going to need a lot of support, because what I want to do as well is if you guys give me the wherewithal, I will be in South Carolina. If I get the wherewithal, there's a GoFundMe that will be going up for South Carolina and some of the other areas, because what I think is essential is for us to come across and for us to make those videos, for us to be able to go out and show people this is going to be this effort to win. It's not going to be a normal effort to win, because what we want is not just a 50+1 victory. We want to talk to people that normally don't get spoken to. So when I go to, if you guys send me to South Carolina, I am going to be talking to people that normally don't get talked to. I'm going to go into the different hoods, the neighborhoods, the barrios Appalachia. I am going to go there and speak to these folks and say, hey, this is what it's all about. Don't buy the thing. And the idea is not to just speak to a group of people and leave it there. The idea is to speak to people and encourage them to be ambassadors, to go out there and make a difference. We have to take this in our own hands. MSNBC and these other channels are not going to do it. The Democratic Party is not going to do it. None of these people are going to do it because they have a range under which they operate. If we really want to make change, we have to use the Bernie Sanders mantra. If you take a look at how he operates, just think if there were so many mini Bernie Sanders running around, both in media and otherwise, how much could we really accomplish? And that's what we're at. And I just on Facebook and on YouTube and Periscope, I just put some links in there where you can, if you click on the one that says Patreon, you can actually get to that to become that independent media warrior and help us do what we have to do to make this change. The year has just started. I would love to start this year with a bang. Folks, it is imperative. It is imperative for us to move forward that we get this done. We're coming on close to the end of the show. I want to thank you for last year. Last year was the year that we started our Patreon, and our Patreon where we had subscribers, and we got over 100 subscribers. On Patreon, we got I think at Patreon we're at about 90 now. I'd love to get that. We need to get that to 1,000 so I can get a producer. So please go ahead and sign up with our page on our Patreon page with whatever you can contribute. But here's the deal. I also had a GoFundMe for equipment to get to Philadelphia for the Netroots Nation. You guys came through. We are trying to get some more equipment in here that makes things a little smoother as well. That GoFundMe is still going. So there are several ways that we can assist in making sure this stuff occurs. But the one thing I am thankful for, whether you give or you haven't given, is you are making a difference in many ways. Your eyeballs are essential. Your sharing is essential. And of course, if you have the wherewithal too, your contributing is essential. So thank you so kindly for spending this time with me. I don't know if you understand how appreciative I am of the platform, both here on the internet and on the air in Houston, Texas on KPFT 90.1 FM. I am honored to have you listen. My name is Egberto Willies, and you know how I end this baby. I am what? What am I? I am